Good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of OmenG's Stupid Scary Stories. Not in the best of moods today, but the show must go on, right? You know what I'm saying? Still gotta tell stories. Sometimes it helps take the mind off of the nonsense. Now, as usual, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. My mind is drawing somewhat of a blank. Hopefully, that'll change. I kind of have this idea about what if really it was possible to travel through dimensions? There was a place that you went to, like a dimensional store, right? Like you go on vacation and shit, and it's just like different dimensions that you could go to, and depending on dimension and shit, they would brief you on what to expect. Or maybe it was like a mystery dimension, and you had absolutely no idea, right? For the sake of argument, let's just say that's what it is. They're mystery dimensions. You enter at your own risk. Well, these things do exist, actually. I myself was a steady customer of Dimensions R Us. Used to go there once a week, go visit different places. Most of the time it was pretty cool, see interesting, life, different scenery, different planets. Well, I assume they're different planets, or maybe they're just the same planet in different dimensions. Who knows how this whole dimensional shit works? I'm not quite sure myself. I just know that it costs a certain amount of money. You pay them, usually with debit or credit card and shit, and then, they tell you, hey, this is what you expect. They give you a little kit to bring with you for survival, just in case you get sent to a place that's wild and crazy, and there's no intelligent life, which is what happened to me the last time I went. And to say that there was no intelligent life would be foolish, right? There was just no human intelligent life, or intelligent human life, if that makes more sense. Probably does in the context of what I'm about to tell you, right? Anyway, so, pay my little fee, hop into the chamber, and buzzes and hums and whirs and clicks and pow, I'm in a new dimension. You step into the staging area. Each one of these dimensions has a staging area that you come into that's closed off from the actual world itself, so that you can prepare and look at camera views of what it is. It tells you ambient temperature, yada yada, weather, blah blah blah, information that you need in order to decide whether or not you're going to follow through with exploring, or if you're going to go home, right? So I'm reading the little chart there, and nothing seems out of the ordinary. I mean, obviously traveling through dimensions is not ordinary. Well, it is for me and most of the people that I know, but maybe for you guys, not so much, right? But anyway, so I'm looking. Don't see anything crazy. Temperature is normal. Air is normal. It's breathable, obviously. So I put on a jacket. This is jacket weather, let's say, right? Open up the door. Slides open. Walk out. Closes behind me, and they give you a code so that you can get back in, and nothing else that's not supposed to get in doesn't get in, right? So the door locks behind you. So off I go, They give you a little rover vehicle so that you can, drive around and shit. And you're not just stuck walking everywhere. So I hop in the little rover, driving around, looking at these living plants, big giant things, eating insects. I guess they're insects. They look like insects, right? Like normal. Well, they don't look like normal insects, but in my mind, because they were small, living things that kind of looked like bugs, I just figured they were bugs on another planet. Until one landed on my shoulder and talked, which was weird because it spoke English. I'm thinking to myself, what is the likelihood of going to another dimension and they speak English of all languages, that you could find in all these dimensions, probably? What is the likelihood of English? I thought it was strange. Kind of surprised the shit out of me. I'm like, whoa. Holy shit. Fucking. Hey. Like, what's going on? Creature? He started to tell me about his life, his wife and his children, his job, flying around, eating stuff off of plants, pollinating things, normal insect sounding life. I was confused still though, like why it actually spoke English and how it could speak English so well, So obviously I asked the question. I was like, hey, how do you know English? He was like, yeah, well, one of you guys came here about 10 years ago and stayed, never went back. It's been teaching us your language and customs ever since. Started a whole government and economy and things. Gave us all jobs and purpose. It's really fun. We enjoy it. He said, why don't I bring you back there? You can meet him. I was like, sure, why not? What could it hurt? Meeting another human being in a crazy dimension, especially somebody who's been living here for 10 years and took the time out to teach the life forms there English. I was obviously intrigued. I wanted to know more. So, I hop in my rover and I follow this flying creature. It's driving, everything's fine. Come up to what looked like a settlement of sorts. There was like a couple of shacks and some huts, a building, compound, let's say, sprawling. It was beautiful, very beautiful, but not what I would call super modern. You know what I'm saying? Modern enough. Looked like there was electricity and all that stuff, but not like a huge electrical power station or anything like that. I'm assuming that he was using some type of, solar power or whatever, so I get in there and he's like, hold on, let me go, find the master. Immediately, of course, hearing that, I'm like, the master? That never, ever works out well. The guy might think, I want to come here and take over his little thing he's got going on. And quite frankly, I just want to meet a guy who's been here for 10 years and took the time out to teach other life forms how to speak English. Now, how the fuck did he do it in 10 years? They speak pretty good fucking English. They were born speaking this shit. Anyway, guy comes out. Dressed like a normal person, regular clothes and shit. Must have packed a lot, I'm assuming, for 10 years. Where else was he going to get clothes? Or either he keeps them very clean and laundered. Then it's not much for him to do here, so I guess that's not a hard thing, Anyway, he comes out. He says, greetings, fellow human. It's like, hey, how you doing? My name's Reese. I was talking to that flying thing. Told me that you, been here for 10 years teaching life English. And living here among them. It's pretty cool. He's like, yes, I decided to shed my earthly boundaries and live here in this wonderful land. Endless opportunity. No need for money or anything like that. Like the smartest thing here. It's fucking phenomenal. But that seems lonely though. Don't you ever miss home or other people? He's like, oh, people come here all the fucking time. It's dimensional travel shit. So you're here, right? He's like, I see somebody here pretty much every other week. Sometimes even whole families. They come, they visit, we eat, and they go home. I was like, oh, sounds cool enough. So, what do you do for fun around here? He says, what don't you do? There's fishing, There's bird watching, insect watching, plant watching, growing things, gardening, exploring, hiking, camping. It's like whatever you think of. Mine is a tapestry which can be painted in any which way you want. That possibilities are endless. Endless. I said, that sounds pretty cool. He said, why don't you join me for dinner? I'm having a special dish. I only make it once in a while. You know, today seems like a decent occasion. I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, why not? Sure, fuck it. He said, yeah, you could use shack number 5. Take your clothes and you can leave them there and stuff. Get washed up. And join me in the main house. I said, all right, man, I'll see you in a little bit. I walk over to the shack, hut. Not really thinking anything of it. I'm like, okay, well, this guy seems okay. You know, he's obviously had contact with other human beings recently, so he's not like some weirdo or anything like that, you know? Cool. So, you know, I'm sitting there, change my clothes, get washed up and shit. Just chilling. I just so happened to look, you know, under the bed. I don't know why I looked under the bed, but I did, you know, and I noticed a cell phone. I was kind of confused by that. Like, you know, most people wouldn't leave a phone behind, right? So I, you know, pick up the phone. Interestingly enough, it's not locked or anything like that, and it still has a charge. So me being nosy, I start going through like photos and things. Family, 2 kids, mother and father. You know, see pictures of them. I'm assuming it was the oldest child's phone because there were a lot of selfies of him. Selfies with him, selfies with other creatures, you know, bugs on his shoulder. He's like looking at him like, you know, talking to him and shit. It's a couple of videos, right? Just scrolling through. I get to the last one. It's like maybe a 10-second video, which was kind of weird because most of the videos were like a minute and a half, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, whatever. This one was only 10 seconds. So I'm thinking, maybe he just like didn't mean to record. You know how sometimes you just hit the video button sometimes and you know, you record something, you're like, oh, I didn't record that. So I looked at it anyway, right? And on the video, he's panicked. He's like, oh, guys, if anybody gets this message, this guy, and it stops, you know. That was it. I'm just like, this guy, if anybody gets this message, like, maybe he left the phone there on purpose. So immediately, of course, I start thinking that the dude that, you know, has invited me for dinner might be a little bit more suspicious than previously thought. So, you know, I go to the house cautiously. You know, I got a knife in my pocket just in case, you know. You never know with these hermit types. You know, he could be a cannibal or some shit. Probably is a cannibal. So I started thinking in my head, right? I mean, that's the most likely thing to happen, is that he's probably a cannibal. You know, maybe the people who come here and visit end up being the dinner for the next people who come and visit. Human-fed humans. That's probably tasty. It's probably real tasty. Of course, unfortunately for me, I find out exactly how tasty it is. I get to the house. Dinner is on the table. You know, nice spread, just like steak, and all types of vegetables that I've never seen before, but they looked good. You know, it smelled delicious. Oh, it was intoxicating. Sat down. He gave me a glass of wine. I said, "Hey, no. I don't drink alcohol. I've given that up. I'm sober, many years now. So I'm gonna have to pass. Thank you." He's like, "Oh, no problem. Have some of this delicious nectar of he said some weird shit. I thought he was spitting or choking on something. I ran over there and like started patting him on the back. He's like, ah. He's like, I'm fine, man. That's how you pronounce this particular fruit. It's delicious. Try some, right? Now, my guard is still slightly up, but at the same token, I don't want to be rude. So I try some of this nectar. Oh, and it was exquisite. The flavor reminded me of a mix between passion fruit and blood orange. Just a hint of spiciness. Just a hint. I looked at him and I said, this is magnificent. God, you could make a business bringing stuff like this back to Earth. Or, to our dimension. Why haven't you thought of that? It's like, no. I like it better here. It's no laws. No people to bother me. It's my own little world. Why would I want to go back? In the old world, I was a janitor. Cleaning up office buildings for assholes. It's like, I'm much happier right here. I was like, yeah, well, I guess I could see how that, work out. All of a sudden, I start feeling heavy. Like tired and shit. He's like, you haven't even tried any of the food. Don't fall asleep. Smiles at me. A sinister smile. Like, you know what? You're right. Must be just from the, dimensional travel and shit. Sometimes dimension lag, probably, But let me eat. Grabbed one of the steaks. Cooked to perfection. Rare. Just like I like it. Had a little steak sauce. Of course, I always bring my own little bottles of hot sauce. Dash some on there. Oh, the meat was so soft and tender. Seasoned perfectly. It melted in my mouth. It's at that point, when I thought about it, I realized I hadn't seen any livestock type animals anywhere around. Right? Like maybe something that resembled a cow or a pig or something that you would get this meat from. It's at that point when I looked over to him and I said, hey, you don't mind me asking, what is this exactly? He said, no, I don't mind at all. He said, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. Don't freak out now. Don't freak out. I was like, I won't freak out. Unless you tell me it's people. It's like, well, it is. I looked down at my mostly eaten steak, poke at it with my fork, and cut off another piece. And continue eating. Because at this point, it's too late now. I've already started. Might as well finish, right? I know, you're probably saying you're fucking fucked up for eating that. And I am. And I regret having eaten it now that I'm back here around people. Because it's hard to look at people the same once you've eaten them. You know what I'm saying? You kind of look at them like meat. Like, I wonder how tasty that leg is. Anyway, right? Finish eating dinner. I go lay down in the shack, go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Everything was fine. Woke up the next day, or what I thought was the next day, probably the next day. Day cycle and night cycle is different. So I'm assuming it was the next day, right? The sun was up, it was bright, or its sun. Whatever light source it was that was in the sky was up. So in my opinion, it was the next day. I go say hello to my gracious host, thank him for the dinner before, and let him know that I'll be on my way. Hop in my rover and I head off. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. That's it? You ate human meat with some guy, and then you left. Yeah, that was it. There. Now, here's where the shit hit the fan. You know, splattered all over the walls. It's disgusting. Hop back in the dimensional transport to come back to Earth, or, here. And something malfunctioned. And I ended up in a place that was not at all where I was supposed to be. It wasn't where I was supposed to be. I knew it wasn't where I was supposed to be because obviously I knew where I was supposed to be, and this was not it. So, I hopped back in to the dimensional transporter and pressed a few buttons and shit. Got on the phone because there's like a little phone that I guess it has a direct line to our dimension and tech support. I pick it up. Guy says, "Hello, how can I help you?" And I'm like, "Listen, right? I was just on my trip, such and such." Gave him my ID number and shit, information. He's like, "Oh yes, Mr. Mitchell, your return is in 2 hours." I was like, "Yeah, but I figured I was coming back early. There's no point in overstaying my welcome here. I've had as much fun as I feel like having." But here's the problem, right? When I was on my way back, when the transport stopped and I opened the door, it wasn't the place that I was supposed to be in. Like, this is not where I'm supposed to be, right? So, could you triangulate my position, figure things out for me, because I'd like to go home. I've got work in the morning. The boss won't be too happy about me not being there when I'm supposed to be. And besides, I've had my fun. I want to go home. Like, what's going on? He says, "Hold on one moment, please." Puts me on hold. This little elevator music comes on. Dimensions are us. Dimensions are us. Right, and I'm just listening to this for like 5 minutes or so. And it's starting to get on my nerves, right? Because it's getting stuck in my head. You know how jingles are. It's annoying. It's stuck in your head. You're just mad. Anyway, right? So I'm starting to think about the last dimension I was at. The human meat eating. Tasty and delicious as it was. Started feeling kind of bad. Not for eating it, but for how he got it. Because obviously some poor sap got tricked. And he ate them. And then served them to potentially other people. That's terrible. But what I was feeling bad about was I was hungry. And I wanted more human meat. It was like a feeling in the pit of my stomach. I couldn't escape it. It was like a growling pain. At this point, I'm getting really frustrated because I haven't heard anything back from the asshole who has me on hold for the past 7-8 minutes. So I start yelling into the phone as if that's really going to do anything. Hey, hello? Finally, he comes back on. He's like, "We'll get you back here in just a moment. Sorry about that. We had a little bit of a power surge here. It was a terrible thunderstorm, yada, yada, yada. You don't need to be bored with the details. But just give me a moment. We're going to recalibrate the machine. And when I say hit go, then you're fine. You should be right back here where you're supposed to be. Sorry, sir, for the inconvenience. Have a wonderful day. Go." So, I hit the button. Noise, hums, whirs, clicks, pow. Press the button, door opens. Oh, everything is fine. Everything is fine. Except for the pain in my stomach. Oh, it's bad. Got home, I figured maybe I'll just have something to eat. Made some chicken nuggets, had some delicious hot sauce with it. But it just wasn't enough. That pain wouldn't go away. Saw somebody walking past the house, and I'm staring at them. They were kind of fat. I was like, I bet you that would make for a good fucking fat back, baby back slab of meat. I caught myself. I'm like, wait, stop this. Stop. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? You don't eat people. Well, you did eat people, but you're not supposed to eat people in this dimension. It's not normal. But the pain in my stomach would not go away. It just wouldn't go away, So I said to myself, something's got to give. Right? I need to make this stop. I mean, it was excruciating. I couldn't think straight. All I could think about was meat. Human meat. I had to have it. I had to. I went out one night in the dark. Saw a couple of people staggering out of a bar, drunk. Snuck up behind them. Had a taser. Zapped them both. Had some chloroform. Just to make sure that they were out cold, I hit them up. Dragged them back to my basement, where I killed them. I'm not proud of it. But the hunger, it was controlling my mind now. I had to eat. There was no escaping it. So I got to work, chopped them up into steaks and portions of meat and different cuts of meat. I know this is gross, folks. I'm sorry. But that's what happened. Made a big marinade. Tossed the pieces of meat in there. Some of the meat in this one. Dry rubbed some others. Made some jerky out of some other pieces of meat. I had like a nice supply of meat. Deep froze some of it. Made myself some human calf tacos that night. The pain went away. The hunger went down. But I noticed that I was changing. My teeth were changing. My eyesight, my hearing. Things were changing. I was becoming more like an animal. I was growing claws, fangs. My eyesight at night was almost like cat's vision. I could see more than I had ever known that I could see before. It was like having night vision, except without the goggles and shit. I began to go out at night, hunting. Unsuspecting victims, countless victims. And you're probably saying to yourself, what about all the meat that you got from the two people that you stored? I went through all that shit like within 2 or 3 days. That was done. And the more I ate, the more I changed. The more I changed, the more I wanted to eat. And then it was a cycle of viciousness that just kept going on and on. I found out that I no longer wanted to be around people. And it wasn't because I didn't like people. It's because I loved eating them. I couldn't stop myself. I was out of control. I'd prowl the streets at night like a predator hunting prey, creeping around, pouncing on victims. Got to a point where I wasn't even cooking them anymore. I was just delicious. It started getting out of control. And you're probably saying to yourself, it was out of control when you took your first bite of human meat, you jackass. That was the out of control part. Yeah, you're right. It was. I should have never partook in the eating of meat that's human in origin. But I did, and I regret it. I regret it. Weeks went by, and I found that I felt more animal than human. You know, hundreds had died in the weeks that I had come back from this dimension. And I felt that I could no longer live among people. So I packed up all my shit. I moved out into the woods and built myself a small bunker of sorts. Shack on top of this bunker so that I could be upstairs and downstairs at the same time. I didn't want to be in the basement the whole entire time. For a little while, I was able to subdue my cravings for meat simply by moving away from people. I started eating animals and shit, and that wasn't the same. Once you've had human, nothing else will do. Nothing else. So I thought maybe, right, I could parlay this into ridding the world of bad people. Like, I won't eat good people, I'll eat bad people. And how I'll decide this is, I'll look at the news. I mean, I'm not like some supernatural creature or anything. I'm not like invincible and shit, so I'm not like going after people who have guns and armies and things. Just like, you know, bad people. And I look up on the internet, right? This goes on for maybe 2 or 3 years. No one seems to miss any of the people that I'm eating. But once again, it just isn't enough. The more I eat, the more I want. The more I want, the more I eat. And the more I eat, the more I need to eat. Then it clicked in my head. That asshole didn't go there by choice and stay there. He's there because he has to be there. So, you know, I took another trip back to the dimension. I went to go see this guy. You know, I was a little pissed off. It's like, you knew, didn't you? You knew. It's like, yeah, I knew. I also knew you'd be back. Of course you knew I'd be back. You knew I would be back because you fucking knew that you did what you did and then you came back. He's like, yes, I know. But it was the only way I could end my suffering. I'm like, what do you mean by that? You want vengeance, don't you? Yeah, I do. And I'm hungry. Eat me. Eat you? Yes. Eat me. I've been eating humans for the past 10 years. I'll probably be the best tasting human you've ever eaten in your life. And once you've consumed me, your hunger will be satisfied for quite some time. Not permanently, but for quite some time. But there is a catch. I'm like, of course, there's always a fucking catch. Is there ever not a catch when it comes to some shit like this? So what's the catch? You'll have to stay here. Take care of the creatures that I've taught. Maintain this wonderful compound. You can't live around regular people anymore. You know this. This is the best thing for you. There's no people here. And the few who do come, well, you make your choice on whether you decide to eat them or not. And then when you've had enough, when you've absolutely tired of this existence, well, then you can trick someone else like I tricked you. Like I was tricked and the person before that person was tricked. I was like, so this has been going on for a while. He's like, yes, I'm not the first. And nor will I be the last. Nor will you be the last. You will choose to do as I did. You'll have no other choice. You'll get tired of this shit. Trust me, you will. Well, needless to say, I butchered him, ate him, and like he told me, it was the most delicious thing I had ever eaten in my life. It was like tasting heaven. You know what I'm saying? Like, Every wonderful feeling and emotion that you could possibly have, I tasted. And just like he told me, it satisfied my hunger. That one meal satisfied me for days and days and days, months even. And I had plenty of him left. I stored it. So for years, I would eat portions of this meat. Human-fed, delicious meat. And occasionally, people would pop up. I'd invite them over, but I wouldn't feed them the meat. No. I wouldn't feed them the meat. That was special meat. That was meat just for me. I gave them regular stuff from around there, different vegetables. Things that were big and gigantic. Insects. Well, they looked like insects, and they may not have been insects, but they tasted good to them. They didn't know any different because they didn't see me prepare it. And this went on for a while. They'd come and visit. I'd feed them. They'd leave and tell stories to other people. And then those people would come and visit and tell stories some more. And this went on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Until finally one day, like he said, I started to grow tired of my existence. I no longer wanted to be in this dimension. I wanted to go home. So I did what he did. I waited one day. Nice family came to visit. A family of 7. Big family. I told them the story. Not the meat eating part, but just my story of how I was there and what I was hoping to accomplish from being here and how much I had accomplished, and just spun this whole yarn for them, and they were all, oh wow, that's so cool, wow, wish we could do something. I'm like, you can now. Of course, I had prepared them some of the meat that I had been eating for the past few years. Like I told you, I preserved it. Once they tasted this meat, there was no going back for them. I told them their fate, that they would be stuck there. They would have to remain. But this time, there was a twist. I wasn't about to have them kill my ass and eat me. Shit. Fuck that. I told them that they ate some special plant life animal thing that unfortunately is only available here, and that's why really I stayed there for so long. I told them I was going to wander off into the distance, explore this world more, and they would never see me again. I left them what was left of the meat, and I got my ass back to this dimension because, quite frankly, I like it better here. Every now and then I'll have to knock somebody over the head and eat them. But I'm not as bad as I used to be. One day at a time. One leg. Every now and then. It's not such a bad thing. I've gone back to my ways of just hunting down the bad people. That's it. But if there's one thing for you all to take from this, never trust dimensions are us. You never know where they're going to send you. And if you see some guy that is really friendly and serving you delicious steaks, don't eat them. The steaks, that is. Don't eat the steaks. Don't eat him either, because that's not good. You shouldn't do that. Thank you for joining me for another stupid scary story. Number 36. We'll call this one Dimensions Are Us. I'll see you next time when I'm hopefully in a much better mood and can tell a much better story. Until that time, thank you.